Hey, today we've got Mark Smith with us. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Mark's going to be running through the 6 core needs and how, at the current state with coronavirus, all of our needs are being challenged, and also how to set up your home office to make sure that you've got it optimized to be able to work from home if you've got family, and how to manage your team remotely. So thanks so much for joining us, Mark. I'm really excited to have you here.
Oh, thanks for inviting me to be here. It's an honour to be able to share some information to help people out a little.
Yeah, it's a crazy time we're in, and such a eerie, weird feeling when you're driving down the street and you're doing business at the moment and people are cancelling jobs or not coming into the shop, or not catching up with you if you're face-to-face sort of business. It's definitely a weird space we're in. So
Yeah. Well, look, and also the speed at which everything's evolving as well. Like, I've been involved with a fitness studio here in Perth. We knew that our closure was coming, but it happened a lot quicker than we expected. So, bit of a scramble to get everything in place. But it's changing so rapidly. It makes it very difficult to plan ahead. So,
yeah,
there's hopefully we've got a few tips to share today that'll help people get their heads around that.
yeah, I totally feel the same way. Like, we were hoping that nothing would happen, hoping, then bam! But in saying that, some people have been hit harder than others, and gyms were one of the hardest. Cafes, restaurants, hospitality, tourism, that sort of stuff is getting a big blow at the moment. So excited to hear. What are some of the things as involvement in the gym have you noticed from a total shutdown?
Wow. It's been interesting how we've had to then just adjust and pivot around a few ways of delivering. But ultimately, we knew it was coming. I think this is one of the gifts of living in Australia in quite an isolated country. I know from talking to friends and even myself a few weeks ago, like, this will be okay. It won't affect me too much. Everything will be okay. I think we should really start paying attention to this and see what happens, to, oh my God, now we really need to sort stuff out. And the businesses that were proactive in thinking about how can we deliver things remotely are the ones that are going to survive this well, and the ones that are just reacting or still going, this will pass, it'll just be a temporary thing, then they're the ones that are going to struggle. So I guess before we get into the deeper stuff, what we're seeing as a trend in fitness is really understanding that as a business owner, I think people need to think long term with this, because even after the pandemic ends, there's likely to be a recession. So we need to fix the immediate problem of right now so we can keep cash flow going. But then we need to think longer term as far as what happens beyond that. And this is what we've noticed in the studio that I'm involved with, is first of all, people were just choosing to self-isolate at different levels. We had some members who are have sick loved ones or are in high contact with people in high risk groups. Yep. We've got a couple of members who just spend their job involves meeting a lot of people. So people in real estate, they've been really affected by this before the restrictions came in place. And we've got another person who's a nurse in ICU. So she's self-isolating other than work as well, because she's in contact with these people. But what we were noticing before the restrictions came in is, rough numbers, probably 30% of people were choosing to be quite conservative and take some restrictive measures, and the other 60% originally were like, it'll be fine, I don't see what everyone's worrying about, or they have a healthier respect for it, but are just going to keep living their normal life as much as possible. And then as we've had to escalate new things, we found new ways to deliver the same service to people, and we've now got a mix of people who say, I still want to keep paying my membership, I want to make sure that we support the business while I have a job and while I can, and want to have the four walls to come back to at the end of this. And then there's others who are like, I'd like to contribute, but I've lost my job. So we're just finding ways to help everyone out around different ways.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, all of that sort of stuff is just flowing down, isn't it? So, no, interesting. Very interesting. Tell us a little bit about the 6 core needs and how people are being challenged around those at the moment.
All right, so this comes from the work of Tony Robbins and Chloe Madonnas, who they generated this model of the 6 core needs. And basically our 6 core needs in order are a need for certainty, we have a need for certainty, we have a need for uncertainty, or also referred to as variety. Then we have a need for significance, a need for connection, and there are first four physical needs. And once those are met, we move into our higher order needs, our spiritual needs, which are growth and contribution. Now, we have a need to satisfy all of these needs in different areas of our lives in order to experience happiness, for lack of a better description.
Yeah.
And we'll meet these in all sorts of different ways. And they'll be unconscious. You'll just be automatic things. You won't necessarily think of, I'm feeling a bit uncertain at the moment, I need to go and do X, Y, Z. We'll just have these automatic ways of doing them, and they'll either be met in a resourceful or an unresourceful way. And at the moment, all of these are being challenged, and we can, by understanding these 6 core needs, we can start to see how they're going to play out for not only yourself, but potentially your team as well.
Yeah, totally. So let's run through each core need at a time and how the coronavirus is affecting that need.
So the most immediate one that people are going to be challenged around is connection. So everyone's going to have a different way of experiencing connection. Some people have a greater need to experience connection physically. So these are the huggers of the world, the people that like to high five or just need to be in the vicinity of people physically, like actually in the room. Business people will see this as people who want to have face-to-face meetings but resist like this Zoom or Skype meetings, and they need that physical connection. Then people, the next level is people will connect intellectually. The more mental, in a good way, the more mental focused people will connect through conversation or challenge or the debate around ideas. Some people have an emotional connection, so that doesn't necessarily mean to be face-to-face, but these people will need to be on the phone regularly, or at least having some sort of conversation that makes them they'll just feel something. It doesn't have to be feel happy. They'll feel connected for doing it, but they'll be the ones that are quite empathetic to what's going on and almost to a point of sympathetic, depending on how they're talking to. They will feel what the other person's feeling. So that's a good way of knowing if you're more of an emotional person. And then there's the spiritual connection, people who get connected through an idea or just feel like they are part of a group. They don't have to be in it all the time. They just need to feel that they're part of it. So now that we've collapsed all of our normal social automatic habits that have been a way that we've connected for literally centuries, the context has changed, but the method is still the same. Now we're isolating people. Initially, people will be like, oh, yeah, great, I get to take a bit of time out. But very quickly, for some people in the first few days, for others within the first week or two, they'll start to feel this isolation, and that becomes quite challenging. So we need to find ways of connecting differently to what we did before. And I have to commend you on setting this up, because this is just one of the methods that starts to get people engaged or knowing that there is a world outside of your front door for a period of time. Yeah.
So I've been remote managing my business from the eastern states, and one of my businesses in Western Australia. Then I felt a bit of disconnection, same sort of thing. Like I wasn't there in person with my team anymore. And for months I felt disconnected with them. And then we started jumping onto conference calls like this. And I realized I can have all of these people at once in this meeting and be almost touching knees with them right now. Like if we sat this close to one another, we'd be touching knees. It would be almost more intimate than we're used to in person. So I found that doing this is really great. So I think this is a good opportunity for people to realize we are getting more and more stuck in the digital space. We're on our phones, we're looking at Facebook a lot more, but we're never face calling anyone. If someone face calls you, they're like, what the? No, they pocket dialed me on FaceTime, like they think you're faking it. But I think people need to start to realize this is a genuine way to connect now and start to experience that. Yeah.
Well, look, I've been talking to a couple of business owners as well who have traditionally resisted online or Skype calls, those kind of things. And from talking to them, what I put it down to is a bit like hearing your own voice for the first time. If you're not used to it, or you don't have the perspective of this is actually how I sound to everyone, it's only me that's finding it weird, then that's one part of it. But then all of a sudden you're on a screen and then people find it quite confronting. Like, oh, wow, like number one, there's nowhere to hide in a meeting anymore. Number two, like you can see yourself, which is quite distracting. So you just got to find my tip, having said that, my tip for people who are having challenges with the online video world is just focus on the person that you were talking to, or focus on a person to talk to like you would do in any other normal setting, and that will make it feel a little bit more normal until you start to get comfortable with this kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. That's a great way to learn how to connect when we can't go outside a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, then beyond that, it's just, phone calls are going to be the most important things. Is people who you would normally talk to, or have a couple of your favorite people on speed dial. I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday. She's got a group messenger chat with a group of our friends, or all the girlfriends, and she instigated a chat just saying, hey guys, has anyone found themselves on Facebook just looking for someone to talk to? So they've organised a Friday night Zoom catch up with sparkling wine or sparkling water, depending on their choice, and sit and have a bit of a face-to-face catch up for an hour or two, or however long it takes. So I'm excited for them for that, and these are the things we're going to start to innovate. But my biggest message is do it sooner rather than later. Don't wait until you hit a point of depression, or I hate the world, or the government has forced me to do whatever your self-talk becomes. Like, start doing this now, because this is the thing that's going to be most challenging. And we hope that this will just be a couple of weeks, but we need to plan as if it's going to be multiple months. And when you take it from that approach and you plan for the long term, so plan for the worst, but hope for the best.
Yeah. I actually, I was on WhatsApp the other day with a group of my friends. I've got a friends group on WhatsApp, and I saw that 3 of us were chatting, or 4 of us were all chatting, 3 other friends. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to start a video call, because we're all like typing to each other. I'll just start a video call, and added the 3 people to the call, and they were all so awkward about the start of it. Like, like, what's this? Like, they've never had a 4-way call before. But after it, they were like, how good is this? Like, we can all talk to each other like we're around the table. And, you know, it was a really, really good experience, and a really good thing that, you know, I'd never done that. I'd never initiated it with my friends before. I've done it with business all the time, but to do it with my friends and 3 at once was, a really cool experience. So I really recommend people just drop that on your friends and have a go and give it a go. Yeah,
nice. And look, friends are, mostly more forgiving than business or just your peers. So, they'll tell you if it's a bad idea or what needs to be improved. So give it a go. Definitely worth doing. But it's also a nice segue into the next one that we'll start to see, which is a challenge around certainty. Now, this is also the easiest to remedy, because people will have had their previous existing routines to roll through, and now, like, there's so many things being challenged right now. People are being challenged around their certainty for job, their security, how the health of their loved ones. Whatever is a primary core value for an individual, chances are that is being challenged right now, because it's such a changing landscape. For some people, it's going to be this uncertainty of, we don't know what's coming next. We can guess what the next level of lockdown or it is, but we don't know when, or we don't know to what extreme, or all that kind of stuff. So it is a lot of sit and wait, and people who have a strong need for certainty are going to be heavily challenged around that right now. So one of the easiest ways to build certainty in your lifestyle is to create a routine. So if you are now working from home and you don't actually need to be at work 9 till 5, then that makes it a little bit more challenging. It's easier to sleep in. You don't have to get in the car to go. Like, your whole lifestyle routine will massively change. So the biggest thing is, number 1, go to bed at the same time every night, because that makes it easier to get up at the same time every day. Just set your alarm and make it a normal day. And the way that I was saying this is a segue is get dressed as if you're going to work.
Yeah.
It's easy to be in a creative space, or I don't have any meetings today, so I can work from my bedroom in my pajamas. Make sure you get dressed, because then you don't have to worry when Greg randomly FaceTimes you. And if you've never done it before, making sure that you are prepared to present yourself to the world. So it also creates this feeling. So when we dress ourselves in the morning, it is literally we're putting on a uniform. So everyone will have an experience of their work clothes, like I'm at home today, but I chose to put a shirt on. Now, this particular shirt, for the purposes of doing this video, I had a shower, had a shave, ready to present myself to the world. Whereas if I didn't have to meet anyone, it would have been easy to just not do any of those things.
Yep.
So it's when we put our, like, everyone will have their formal clothes. Even if you're going out to like a wedding or a ball, you're going to get dressed up different to going out to a casual cocktail party, to your friend's barbecue, to going to work, to coming home. And think about the times when you've gone to work and come home after a tough day, and you just like, first thing you do is take those clothes off and you put your favorite comfortable pair of tracksuit pants on. And you would never go out in them except maybe to the shops when you don't care, but they're the most comfortable things in the world, and your whole state changes when you do that. So have a work uniform, have a casual uniform, have your relax R&R downtime uniform, and change those through the day to give yourself a level of certainty through the day, and that will have a massive influence on your state to be productive.
Yeah, totally. I really love that idea of getting up, getting changed. If you put makeup on, put makeup on. If you do your hair, if you shave, like whatever it is, do that as if it was a normal work week. And then that way your mind will get into that state, and you'll get to work and in your office, at home, or whatever it is. And then you can be productive. And at the end of the day, you can rip them off and put your casual stuff on and feel good. That's what I've not been doing, Mark. I haven't been putting my casual stuff on at the end of my work day. I always get up and get dressed, but I need to put more casual clothes on when I get home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. And look, it's easy, especially people who find themselves in like shorts and t-shirt or shirts, like work clothes. Like it's easy to just stay in those because you can do your afternoon activities. Like if you're wearing a suit and then you want to play with your kids at the end of the day, it gets really awkward. But if you can move well in those things, you still got that, but it just feels weird. So yeah, it literally changes where your mind focus is. It's like flicking a switch into the next part of your day.
So another thing about certainty that's been challenged at the moment is the coronavirus. Like we have no idea what's going, or is that adding to the excitement of our life in the uncertainty part?
Yeah, look, so it is, but if people have, like, we got to satisfy our need for certainty before we satisfy our need for variety and adventure. People, and we've talked about this before, you and I have a high need for variety. When the chaos comes, we're like, wow, this is going to be exciting, let's bring it. But we need to be respectful of the people who are then like, oh my God, this has all been, my world has completely changed and I've got nothing to grab hold of. So, and even people who embrace the variety and adventure, they still need some certainty to come back to. So if you remove all certainty, then things feel like they're just like the earth is falling away beneath you. So yeah, the coronavirus has been the trigger for this, both from a health and media perspective, and also the knock-on effects that it's having for how we run our lives.
So what's the next thing? We're going to move into uncertainty now, or is there something else? That's
so once people have gotten over this certainty, so what'll happen, whether people do their daily routine with volition or they just kind of fall into it, after about a week, for those who are a bit slower to generate, it might be 2 weeks, then people will start to go, okay, this starting to feel like my new normal. I don't love it. Maybe they do love it. But they'll start to get into a routine and get comfortable with it. There'll be a certain level of comfort. Now, the next thing that's going to kick in, and obviously we're in the country at different stages of lockdown and different levels, and especially if there's any international viewers, you're probably a bit ahead of it than us, and maybe well in the middle of the thing that comes next, which is this challenge around variety. The ways that we experienced variety in the past can no longer be done. So if you get to the end of the week of a fairly routine week and you're like, okay, Friday night, let's go out, let's blow off some steam. That's not going to happen now. You are now in your house at the same place that you've been working all week, and we start to get that cabin fever or that little bit of stir craziness. Now, people have a high need for certainty and are satisfying most of their other needs, that they'll be fine. They'll be like, oh, this is good. Like, I'm comfortable here. I like this. People have a high need for variety or adventure. They're going to be seeking variety. And what will happen is if we have a high need for any of these things and they're not being satisfied in our usual ways, they become a sabotage pattern. And this is the time where like I foresee that the people with a high need for a variety or adventure or just changing environments, especially, they're the people that are going to be the ones who are like, oh, you know what? We'll start making excuses of, oh, I just need this from the shops. I'm just going to duck out for a little bit and come back. And like, okay, that was nice. And then, oh, I forgot some. Oh, damn, I need to go out again. But they'll probably go to a different shop and mix it up.
Yeah.
For me personally, I have a high, one of my drivers, one of my highest core needs is variety and adventure. And I've recognized one of the ways we satisfy this. I've got 3.5-year-old twins. So we spend a lot of times at parks and playgrounds. And my wife, she has less of it. She's more on the certainty side of things than the variety. She'd be happy to go to the same park, same playground every week and go and play. And our girls, they don't care. As long as there's something to climb and slide on and play with, it's fine. So I acknowledge it's my need for variety. We will go to a different one every week. We know which ones to go to, but I get excited by the idea of like, oh, there's this new playground a couple of suburbs away. We need to go check it out. So I can't do that anymore.
I have the exact same situation at home with my family. So whenever hey, you've got the kids this morning. Okay, come on, kids, let's get in the car. Like, I'm out. I'm going somewhere. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter where it is. I'm going somewhere. But my wife's like, why do you always go out? Just stay at home and just chill. And I was like, no, I want to go out. Like, I don't want to stay at home. So I'm always at home. So, and she's so happy just to stay at home. Yeah. So.
And you get start seeing the same four walls. And again, some people are really comfortable with that, but even people who are really set with that level of being in the same environments, then going out, like it's just, there'll be a point where they will still need that variety and that's that extra engagement as well. So these are all key things. So we need to find ways of satisfying that need for variety. So making sure, I know we're not in full lockdown in Perth yet, but I wasn't worried about food. I know I'll be able to get food. My concern is, what do I need to get from Bunnings to stock up on all my DIY projects? And I already know that's going to be one of the ways that I can get variety. The other way that I get variety in my life as well is just talking to different people and having these different kinds of conversations. It mixes it up, and I'm good for another day. The next one that's going to be the challenge for this is coming in the fourth of the basic needs is significance. So we have a need all to be to feel a level of significance. So this is a feeling of importance, and it usually comes from at least being acknowledged for the things that we do. Again, some people will have a higher need for this than others, but the main thing is looking for that feeling of importance. So if people are working from home and they're used to lots of connection, or their boss just walking past, looking over their shoulder like, oh, good job, and move on. Like, that's all it takes sometimes. And if we don't get that anymore, like the people are going to start, and this will happen a little bit further down the track, but they'll suddenly hit this point of feeling like they are not being seen. People who have a high need for significance also have a high need for the emotional connection, and that'll start to play out over time, that they're like, oh, no one even notices me anymore. I'm just here in my office. What's the point? And they can quickly switch into this quite negative headspace. So making sure, especially for leaders in business, so if you've got a team, check in and make sure you're measuring performance. And we'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. But you're measuring performance, and you are giving praise as much as you are giving constructive feedback as well. Yeah. It's easy in this kind of time to be trying to scramble to work out, how do we make sense of this new world? And if you've got a team to manage, then telling people the things they should be doing or need to be doing or improving on, make sure you're picking out things like, hey guys, well done. And even if it's just a team group, like, hey, I know that working from home can be challenging. I just want you all to know that I appreciate you all for your diligence and commitment within all this. And some people are like, oh, cool, thanks. Those people who have that need for significance will really benefit from that from a productivity point of view as well.
Yeah. So I've got an example to share around that. Back on this moving away and working remotely, my team started to feel a little bit of that, because obviously operations management, they're always saying, you didn't do this, change this, can you do this? They're just like pumping out orders to try and get stuff all moving through the pipeline to the end to where we get paid. But what we didn't have was a way to connect our people. In my electrical business, we've got tradespeople that go out and they're in their own vans all day, every day, driving around, doing their jobs. They're seeing people and they're interacting with people. But in terms of getting that significance and that feedback from, myself and my ops management team, there wasn't really an opportunity outside of the day-to-day grind of it all. So when we started to do these conference calls, we just asked our team to go to their first job at 7:30, park around the corner, get on your phone, and we're all going to jump into this conference call for 30 minutes, and we tell the client that they're going to start at 8. So everyone tunes in, and we do this twice a week, so it only takes half an hour, and it's like they don't have to drive to the office, they don't have to sit around a big circle, they just pull out the phone and they're there. And so there's no downtime. So it actually is a very cost-effective thing to do as well. But once we started to do that, we had an opportunity, 30 minutes twice a week, to praise our team, to say good work, to talk about the wins, to talk about the lessons, to share significance around in that 30 minutes. I was thinking, within a couple of weeks, everyone was completely different in terms of their energy, their fulfillment at work. It was really, really rewarding to set up. So I recommend people start doing that if you're not already.
Yeah. Well, look, I know I'll add this in as well. This is a very generalized comment, but it's worth being aware of. We can sometimes have people who, without even knowing it, may have some little elements of abandonment issues. So, and without getting into the psychology of it, just this feeling that someone has left us. It can, in a healthy way, it can feel just like it's almost like a breakup. But then in an unhealthy way that we start to act out in all sorts of different ways. So if you have a good rapport with your people and you're able to have the conversation of, hey, look, have you experienced breakups in the past? That'll give you a good hint of how they're going to deal with people moving away. But that's the biggest thing. We start to play out all these little things. It's easy to... One of the patterns that will play out with people, so in your experience, is that your staff may have noticed that the authority figure in their life has suddenly left. But from a physical thing, like you've not left mentally, you're still connected, you're in the business, but people don't always see it that way. They see it through their own eyes, and we need to have that physical presence, and the digital way is the way to do that. And I really think that our current situation is really going to transform how we communicate and how we run our businesses. And look, I think a lot of businesses are going to learn to save a lot of money and run a lot more efficiently as we come out the back of this by keeping some of these practices going.
Yeah. So one of our other experts talked about the phoenix out of the ashes. Like it seems like such a bad thing right now, but then all of these new ways of living, it's almost like, I certainly have felt lonely from all of the digital things and found it hard to connect with people and all that sort of stuff. So to create this, and then everyone's reaching out and connecting, and we've got something to connect on with every single person around the world. It's like, maybe this is what we needed as, in the world, you know what I mean? So
well, look, I have a saying, which is, change happens outside your comfort zone. And some people are very happy to step out of that comfort zone and challenge themselves and then come back into it. I refer to this as very much the athlete mindset. You don't have to be an athlete to have done this, but those people have certainly learned that characteristic. I have a background in karate, and there's the sayings about like, what got me really good at karate is I kept getting back up. There was a period of time where I really was not very good at it at all. But it's the persistence and willing to try and grow. So this is the same thing. This is forcing people way outside their comfort zones right now. And the sooner people get more comfortable with this, then the quicker it'll start to evolve. And the second thing is like things like this, people are now starting to look beyond tomorrow. A lot of people are going to be stuck in, I need to fix this right now. I need to keep cash coming into my business. And that's an appropriate focus for right now. But once you've got that cash flow secured and you've planned for at least the next month, then you go, right, I've got enough to keep things going, and that cash flow is cutting down your expenses while also maintaining that money coming in. Then taking a little bit of a moment every weekend or every week just to think, okay, let's think 3 months from now. What's going to happen? How does this go? Instead of just going, I hope this stops soon. Then go like, absolutely hope that it finishes soon. You can go back to business as usual. But if it doesn't, you've got a plan to follow. And what's challenging now is we talk about, well, especially as a business coach, I talk about like 3-month goals, 6-month, 12-month, even 5-year goals. Challenge now is that 12-month goal that we might have started at the start of the year as a New Year's resolution is now clouded. There's this big black cloud that you can't see past yet, and you don't know if that's even achievable. So now we just got to shorten that time frame and build from there. The next two, so we need to satisfy, just to recap, the certainty, the variety, the significance and the connection as our physical needs. And once we feel comfortable in those, then we evolve to our higher needs, which is growth and contribution. Now, the irony of this, the people who focus on growth and contribution right now are going to be the ones that are also going to help others feel that sense of connection, certainty, variety, significance. And they're the ones that are going to grow and innovate and lead people out of this crisis.
Yeah. No, awesome. Excited to hear about these two.
Cool. So, look, the biggest thing is the ones we've just talked about are probably the main focus for people's health and mental well-being and productivity right now. But then beyond that, we need to just take a little bit of time to think about, just take some time. And my biggest tip to satisfy need for growth and your biggest satisfying need for contribution right now is just scheduling in your week just an hour. An hour more would be great, but just find 1 hour that's committed in your week to go, right, this is my hour where I'm going to learn something. I'm going to download an audiobook. I'm going to watch a podcast. I'm going to watch one of these videos, whatever it might be, to get you at least thinking a little bit differently and learning something new that you didn't previously know. Because when you take that and you assimilate it into your situation, we start to give ourselves options and different ideas on where to move from. So that's one part. That'll be the personal growth will lead to external growth. And adding in just one thing you can do to help others. So with a focus of contribution. And it might simply be knowing that you've run out of toilet paper and finding the shelves fully stacked and avoiding the urge to buy 20 packs. Yeah. And I know we can't right now, but you get the idea. Yeah. And leaving some on the shelf. Like I was in the shops yesterday. I needed to get some milk, and we use like Long Life coconut milk. And there were 4 on the shelf. I would have gotten 4 because we go through a lot of it. And there was this little element of I'll just take 2. If there was only 2 on the shelf, I would have just taken 1 to like leave something there, or at least assess like, okay, how badly do I really need this? Yeah. That's probably the simplest form that everyone can do. But other than that is just looking at if you are in a position where you are fortunate enough to have some cash flow and be relatively safe and secure, like donating, buy an extra tin of food at the shops and drop it into a shelter package or like a charity bin, all those kind of things. So just finding ways to be able to give back for the purpose of giving back. If you're a business owner, the contribution now becomes a focus of, instead of making profits for yourself, for the short term, if you're in a position to do this, at least keeping as many people employed or at least some cash flow coming to them as much as possible. But understanding you've got to look after yourself before you. This is the oxygen mask principle. If you're going into debt and the business is going to close because you just keep paying everyone all the way through, that's not going to be good for anyone. But doing what you can to keep some cash going to people to keep them going with a philanthropic focus or a community focus. Yeah. And with those two things, it's going to make you feel good, and those other needs will start to get satisfied across the board. So just aiming to do whatever we can around the growth and contribution, and the rest will start to fall into place as well.
Yeah, I truly believe that that's what people need to start thinking about now. We really need to pull together now in this time and not fight. And we see these people in the shops fighting over things like they're going to run out. And even if we did, I'm sure if you're the type of person that left some or shared or have friends, there's people in camaraderie. We're going to help each other out. If you run out, someone will help you. A stranger will help you if you let people know you've run out. So let's not fight over these resources we've got. Let's share and collaborate, and I think we're going to get through this okay.
Yeah. And look, and it's just a fear response. So the way I frame it, when you see people do that, just tell them, it's like, oh, look, that they're just acting. They don't know what they're doing. They're just acting on what they believe is the best without any other information. So all you can do, if you buy into it, you become part of the problem. When you stay out of it and just like, oh, that's interesting, not with disgust or aggression or, oh my God, this FOMO, this fear of missing out. It's kind of like that. There absolutely is enough for everyone. That's okay. That's their pattern, and don't buy into it. That's all you can do. All right, so the other things we wanted to cover was really just summarising how to set up your work environment to work from home, because this is something very new for people. And we talked about it a little bit earlier about your environment. Now, your environment, as much as your clothing makes a difference to your state and what identity you step into, your room in your house. So if you're working from home, rule number one, do not work from your bed, because a bed is for sleep and intimacy. That is all. When we start to mix up work with rest and pleasure, then it actually creates what we call an anchor. So we attach work and you'll start to affect your sleep patterns. Ideally is set up a room in your house that is your office, a room with a door. So then you can go, okay, bye everyone, I'm going to work now. And you go to work. You close the door and you're like, right, I am at work. Avoid, and preferably somewhere that avoids distractions, because Netflix is in the next room. And if you've got kids that are home on school holidays or your school's closed, then they don't always understand. They want to come and play. So we just got to set up some routines and some boundaries straight away. So having a room so you can go to work, and going to work helps you be productive. But more importantly, at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I'm finishing work now, and you go home from work when you walk out the door and you close the door in your office. You're like, okay, I'm home. That's really important. Now, not everyone has the luxury of having a room that they can set up as an office. So it's having a space in your house that you can isolate as that. And if a worst case scenario, you need to work at your dinner table, if you normally eat dinner or you have a seat that you normally sit at to eat your food, sit in a different place. So in one of our smaller houses previously, my wife and I, we would sit in particular spots for dinner if we sat down to eat together at the table. And we would have, because we run our own business together, we would have our strategic or board meetings at the same table. That was our board table, but we would sit in different positions and it would completely change the feel of it. So even if we were having a meeting, we'd do that and then, all right, clear the table. And then we would go back to jumping on to our old positions and then just eat dinner, and it creates that shift.
Cool.
That's one part. We talked about changing your clothes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And set some ground rules for the people in your home as well. If you've got kids and someone needs to be distracted, you might need a tag team with your partner if you're both working from home. Other things as well is you're used to particular colleagues that you might sit next to at work. Now all of a sudden you've got a new colleague who doesn't need to listen to what you tell them to do. Also, look, for a lot of couples, we're now at a point where they're possibly spending more time together than they have ever spent before. And if there are any little challenges in your relationship, they're going to get amplified in a work mode. So make sure you take the time to every week have a date night, which is, and you might not be going out, it's just like, okay, on Sunday night we do no TV, and we sit and have dinner at the dinner table, or it's movie night where we sit and we go to the movies at home and we pop some popcorn or whatever your thing is. So you connect with your most important people in your world, because, some people are not designed to live together and work together. Some people are fine. So you got to find that. And understanding people's communication style. So something that my wife and I discovered long ago, we originally had our home office set up where our desks were facing each other, and we recognized, we did it for ages and it was fine, it works, but the problem with this, your computer is right in front of you and you're in focus work mode all the time. Now what happens is just across the table there is your loved one, hopefully the person you care about most in the world, opposite you in that same moment. So when there's a conversation, it's often like, what do you want? It becomes a bit more abrupt. And you're like, oh, that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
So we changed our workspace so we then sit next to each other. It seems really trivial, but it made a massive difference. It changed how we talk to each other. Our focus was on work. And then if we needed to have a conversation, we actually had to break away from that and turn and face each other and have a chat. The second thing that I noticed, so it's worth understanding, men, we are great at focusing. We are not good at jumping between tasks. And the reality is no one's good at jumping between tasks. But when you hear the cliche that women are better multitaskers, it's myth. No one can multitask. Women are just much better at jumping between different tasks. So this is something my wife and I discovered. If I'm in a bit focused on something and she asks a question, if I like, sometimes I don't hear her because I'm so focused. And that was a conversation we had to have, which was like, just please understand, I'm not being rude. I'm not ignoring you. I'm so focused on things. I just don't hear you. Now, some partners won't want to hear that, but you need to have that conversation so that everyone understands.
Yeah.
And secondly is if I'm trying to multitask and she's asking me a more complex question, I won't be giving it enough attention to answer properly, and that will just annoy her. We have this little conversation of, I have to remember that sometimes she'll just jump in and ask a question, and I need to remember that I need to acknowledge that, or at least go, can we talk about this in a moment? But then she also remembers that she'll just jump in out of habit and ask a question like, oh, that's right, he's focused. I'll ask him again in a minute. So when she asked me, oh, look, can I run this past you when you have a moment? I was like, great. I just finished sending this email and then we can chat. She's like, great. That early and late is like remembering, okay, so what did you want to talk about? And half the time she'll be, oh, no, that's right, I worked it out. And the other half the time, like, oh, okay, this is it. The other thing that we often ask is we all have these patterns, and I'll share these on our website as well. There's a few questions to understand how we naturally make sense of the world. There's a meta program, which is our communication, part of our communication style. And a lot of people, some people are internal problem solvers and some people are external. In fact, most people are external, but if you're internal, the question to ask is, if you were to work on a problem, or if you needed to solve a problem, can you sit down and just work it out yourself? Or do you absolutely need to talk it out with someone? Now, some people will know they need to talk it out. My follow-up question when I ask people is like, oh, no, I can pretty much work it out myself. So the follow-up question is, if you sit down with a pen and paper and just work it out, do you come to a resolution or do you need to share with someone first? They're like, oh, I need to share with someone first. Like, okay, just shortcut it straight to talking it out to someone. And even if that person doesn't give you feedback on that problem, the process of organizing your thoughts into a way that someone else understands usually solves the problem for you. So like, I got it. Yeah. So it's literally the process of speaking it helps solve the problem. So if you are one of those people, or if you've got two people in the same room who are external problem solvers, you're going to find yourselves just running things past each other all the time. And that you get to the end of the day, you're like, I didn't get anything done. We just chatted all day. So it's booking a bit of a time for that. And I'll ask my wife, look, do you need my feedback on this or do you just need to talk it out? And if she says, I just need to talk it out, I was like, oh, great. So I carry on what I'm doing and I'll do the very male response, like, interesting. And what will happen then is I'll just suddenly notice she stopped talking. Like, did you get to the end? Did you solve that? She's like, yes, I did. Thank you. I'm like, oh, no worries. Didn't do anything, but that's it. Yeah. Or she'll say, okay, I need your feedback on this. Like, okay, then I know my male brain goes, I need to pay attention to this. Hold on, let me just finish this thing that I'm doing so I can close it off, and then we'll sit and give it my full attention. So there are a couple of just basic tips, but they're probably my biggest tips on communication, a couple of examples on helping couples be able to do that. But then also decide if you need lunch breaks at separate times just to give yourself some space. But you need to communicate and work on how do you structure your day, and when is it a mentally focused task and when is it not, and have that conversation. You actually need to speak it out. Don't just assume that they know that if I'm not talking to you, it doesn't mean that I don't love you. It means that I'm head down, bum up, getting some work done.
Yeah. I've got a little add-on to that for a principle that people use in co-working spaces. But if you've got two headphones in, it means don't talk to me. If you've got one headphone in, it means you can talk. I'm listening to music, but you can talk to me. If you've got no headphones in, it's come talk to me. You know, it's just one of those things that you can use as a signal to the people around you that I've got my headphones in, even if there's no music on them. Like, it's just sometimes you put your AirPods in and just leave them in there, and there's no music on, so you can listen about what's going on, but at least you're putting that symbol there.
Yep. Nice. And look, I would suggest keep doing that at home as well, because there's something about doing this that kind of blocks out the whole world, and you get to spend time in your head. As far as structuring your day, do your headphone do not disturb, get stuff done in the morning, and do your bit more creative thinking stuff in the afternoon is a good way of doing it. And with that kind of leads us on to making sure you've got a performance measure. Now, a lot of businesses, if they don't have clear performance measures for individuals, then the default goes back to time, which is I turn up to work at 9, I go home at 5, yay me, I get my money magically appears in my bank account in 2 weeks' time. Yeah. Now, and also the in-person, when everyone's in the same space, that management, whatever their style is, the reality is by being under the same roof, everyone's management or leadership style is satisfied by just being there. Now, all of a sudden, we need to have volition in how we manage different people, both as a group and then individually. But then having those KPIs means that without looking over someone's shoulder or feeling like they're going to get caught out, which is the motivator for the majority of people in an office environment, having those measures means that now if people are not working as long, they're still getting the work done, they're still earning their money, and you can remotely just check in how they're going, and you know when it's time to have a quick conversation, you go, hey, notice that this has dropped. What can I do to help you? What do you need? What problems are you facing? But also that individual can go, yeah, I'm on track. I got what I need to do done today. I can pack up. Some people's trigger to go home and seeing everyone else go home. So these are little things that there's a whole bunch of little triggers that we're unaware of that are going to start to play out now too.
Yeah, awesome. All those things that you probably wouldn't think about normally if you were just going your normal day. And it must be so much confusion for people coming into their own workspace and trying to do their work from home for the first time. And not really knowing how to optimize that space is they would have to go through all these problems and challenges and thoughts and fights and like all those things by themselves. So yeah, it's really good points you're making. So yeah, appreciate you sharing.
No worries. Look, look, I've got plenty of other stuff we can talk about, but I think that probably gives people enough to go on with. I think the biggest thing that I really want to share is making sure that everyone just down just 2 or 3 things and implement them from right now, because knowledge is wonderful. It's all good to hear these things, but if you then hear these things and just go back to whatever you're doing, or I'll start that next week, it just won't happen. So just choose 1 or 2 things that you can implement from right now in this moment and start doing them. Even if it means you got to take an hour to rearrange your office or find a new space to work and set that up, go and do that, because you will earn that back multiplied over in productivity off the back of it.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thanks so much, Mark. I really appreciate your time today.
No worries. Thank you for having me.